big bad Josh Gowker. I mean, that's all in his mind. He's a big gangbanger type guy. He got scared that he was going to go back to prison and he needed an scapegoat. Josh was out here cried. I mean, he was a pallbearer. Now, what kind of cold-hearted person could do all that kind of stuff, really, and just kill a kid, beat the kid to death? I'm telling you, there ain't an ounce of my body or my being that believes that about that boy.
Well, before our jury renders its verdict on our bold question, was Joshua Young a willing partner in murder? It's time to take a look at my mystery reveal. And it's the family album. There it is, folks. You see, before Joshua's mom died, she was engaged to another man. They had a son who is Joshua's half-brother. That half-brother's sister, Tiffany Baxter, joins us right now. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you with us. And Tiffany, you knew Josh better than any of us, better than anybody standing here. What was he like? What is he like as a young man?
He was a nice, sweet kid, very, very loving and affectionate towards his mother anytime I had been around him. He had, had a hard time being passed through the system and different, family situations, but he was always very loving, very affectionate towards his little sister, our little brother. He was a loving kid. He wasn't a monster by any means.
So what do you think when you hear how the prosecution is portraying him as this monster who was manipulated and took part in this killing?
Well, I just know they're just trying to do justice in the way they see it, and it breaks my heart and it really hurts me that, he's being portrayed as this monster. The hashtag babyface killer really struck a nerve with me last night, because that's not true. We don't know that yet, and label that, at that time a 15-year-old boy whose mother just passed away, and his mother's family fought for him, and instead the state put him with someone who should never be around children, in my opinion, or people.
You mentioned his mother's family fought for him. Tell me a little bit about that.
His Uncle Rodney, another aunt, as well as another aunt named Linda, they all went to bat and went to court and did everything they could to keep Josh with his family that he had always known. He had been through foster care, and after Angelina passed away, he was thrown back into foster care, then placed with his father, who, as far as I know, he never really had or knew that much of his father. He was, as far as I knew, either in foster care or with his mom and her family.
Tiffany, is so interesting because so many people watching this case talk about, well, how did Joshua Young end up with Josh Gowker? And some of the reports were that Josh Gowker turned on the charm, the tears. This is my son. I want him in my life. Is that what happened? Or what do you know about how he ended up with his dad?
From what I hear, Josh Gowker is a master manipulator. He bragged about manipulating CPS and different authorities, and saying that he had certain people wrapped around his finger, and that he was going to get all the, custody of Josh. And, he really just played it up.
Tiffany, what do you think happened that night?
I think Gowker probably acted on his own and manipulated later. I find it really hard to believe that, little Josh would be a pallbearer at his friend's wedding. His mom took him to church. Anytime she could be in his life, she was an impact as far as being loving and family and, God and church. And, I have a hard time believing that a kid that fears God, so to speak, and whose mother is deceased, that he would go and kill another child knowing his mother's watching over him. I just don't see him as being that kind of an evil person. He's not an evil kid.
And Tiffany, I have a couple seconds left. What goes through your mind when you see Joshua sitting there in that courtroom facing perhaps life in jail, in prison?
That I believe he's innocent, manipulated, and I think it's really, really sad that he's had to sit down here downtown Louisville for the past over 2 years now for something he probably didn't do. And I think it's sad. You know, he's just a kid that's continuing to grow up in the system, and now he's, you know, this happened when he was 15, and now they've held him down here so long and want to try him as an adult. He was in the beginning of his teenage years when this happened. He wasn't about to move out of his parents' house and go to college. He was an early teen doing, you know, normal teenage boy stuff.
All right, Tiffany Baxter, thanks for talking to us. We appreciate your time.